So here are my two pots. So this is a pretty good size clay terracotta planter, which I got from my local DIY store. Actually, I think it was a garden centre. Now, so when you're looking at these, yeah, they can be quite pricey. They range anywhere between £30 to £40 for this one. So this is a fairly good size one, and so what you can see, this is what I looked for. You know, something like a fairly thick sort of diameter of terracotta, so it can withstand the temperature. And what you'll see here is I've actually put a couple of clay pot feet into the bottom of it, so that's going to be to stand my smaller inner clay pot on top of. What I've found is that there's a little bit of a tilt to the bottom of the pot, a little bit of a camber, and so it won't sit on there flat, and this is what actually helps it sit on flat. So in the design I was sort of looking at well, where do I actually need the vermiculite to go into, to go up to, because obviously it's going to fall down that little hole there, and that's not what we want. So what I'm going to do is probably put an upstanded sort of circumferential bit of clay which I've got and mould around that little hole, so we won't actually get any escape. I've researched into looking at what the best sort of adhesives are, so there are some fireproof ones which I'll detail later in the video, which can withstand pretty high temperatures, which I think will be sufficient. So that's the inside of the clay pot. The plan is to create a air channel between the inner and outer, so you get a bit of airflow in there to really get the temperatures up and help the circulation inside there. Now, so this brings me on to the smaller pots. Now this is more difficult. What I wanted was quite a large inner cavity of the oven, so finding two pots which were the right size was obviously a bit of a challenge. Now what I've managed to get at quite a good price actually is this bottom one. That was £8.99 at a local garden shop under clearance, and again you can see this is quite thick, which should stand pretty well as the bottom part, and this is the top part. So this was a slightly less expensive, probably about £13–14, and you can see I've cut the top off it. So that was a fairly good job, I think, not too bad for my first go. It's not 100% flat, but it's not bad, and it's withstood, you know, at least, I don't know, probably 10 to 12 previous pretty hot cooks, which has probably strengthened it, if anything. I made a bit of a silly mistake pouring water into there. I know that's GCSE physics, and the bottom one actually cracked after a very hot barbecue, so I won't be doing that again in a hurry. But luckily the top part, where I put most of the hard work into cutting that off, withstood the pressure, so we're okay. What I use to do it, obviously if you've got a angle grinder or something like that at home, that's going to be the quickest thing to cut through that, or cut through it like butter. I'm probably not brave enough to operate an angle grinder. I'll put my hand up there. So I got myself a Dremel as an introductory tool, which is a fantastic tool. I'll show you a little later on. So what that did was I was able to put a little fitting to the top of it, which again I'll link later on in the video, and use that as a mini sort of circular saw, and use that to take off the top of the pot. I needed a diamond tipped one. Diamond tip's always best for sort of terracotta, stone or masonry, and obviously keep it nice and cold while you're doing it by putting water onto it. So my job now is to create a hole in this pot and a hole in that pot, link them up, and you know, form some sort of conduit. I plan to do that with maybe an old tin, or maybe I might fashion one out of clay. I'm not sure yet. We'll see what happens. So that's my initial plan. And the top here, that's the top of an old barbecue, which handily absolutely fits like a glove. on the top, just for storage purposes and stopping water getting into the tandoor. So that's the end of my part 1 video, guys. Thank you. So this is the first hole I've just drilled, and honestly just done it with a drill driver. I didn't think this thing would get through it, actually, to be honest. It was really important to keep the diamond saw really cold, otherwise that's what usually blunts it. So I was pouring water on with this old watering can, and it has actually done the job. So you can see I've got a really nice clean hole through there. The trick is to enter at a 45-degree angle, and do it pretty slowly until you've got a sort of guide groove, and then sort of bring it down sort of 180 degrees down and lightly press until you've got a good groove, and don't be too impatient with it. I also sort of held off using a a more powerful drill because I thought that might actually crack the pot. So anyway, right, on to task 2, drilling through this bad boy. I'm sure it's not going to be quite as easy, but I'm going to see if I can match up the holes anyway. Got a pencil to sort of pop this in, and hopefully can work out where I need to drill. Okay, wish me luck. So here we are. I've managed to drill a hole through it. Not 100% happy with it because I've had to go from the inside, so the outside doesn't look quite as tidy, but it's no biggie. I can just sand it off and make it look nice. So, job done. Excellent. So this is the next stage. So as you can see, I am trying to fashion a little lip that will stop all the vermiculite coming out. So I think we're going to go back to GCSE times and actually pre that, and seeing what skills I've got with clay. So that's the first layer, and I'm probably going to put a second one on, so we're at an even sort of level as these pot feet that are inside there. And as you can see, the holes in place, and let's just hope they all match up. So here we have it. This is the tandoor all assembled. I still haven't filled in the vermiculite yet. So starting from the top, we've got the 30cm flower pot, which has had its top sawn off with a Dremel with a circular disc saw attachment. Underneath that we've got another pot with a slightly wider diameter, and it is stuck with a silicone bonding adhesive. You can get that from Victas. They know what they're doing with high temperature sealants and cements. I chose a silicone bonding agent because basically if I got it wrong I could just take it off and start again. And underneath that we've got clay sort of upstander which I fashioned, which you've seen before, and some clay pot planter feet. So that's basically what the inner chamber is resting on, and I've actually again fixed that to the pots with the silicone adhesive. And then lastly I've got a hole that goes all the way through, and I'm yet to sort of have a decision on basically what I can use as a conduit. I'm currently thinking about probably an old can, though whether I can find one I'm not sure, or I might have to make one. I'm hoping I don't have to do that. What I need is something about the diameter of a loo roll, so that's a 50mm hole that I've made, that can go through there. And then I've also saved the little piece that I've drilled out, as you can see there, and I've attached it to a little bit of modelling clay, so I'm hopefully going to be able to use that as a sort of stopper if I want to. I've probably got to find out a way to fix that because it's a bit heavy and it will obviously fall off if I don't have something, probably like a wrought iron peg or something like that, that will sort of keep it held in place. So Anyway, so that's stage one to do. So it's a really hot day today. It's probably about 28 degrees today. So hottest day of the year so far, May 21st, 2020. So I'm going to leave that all to dry in the nice sun, and then maybe come back to it again this weekend